Thanks, Dad. Joe Jones.
At age 10, when I grew up in Little Rock, Arkansas, the most exciting thing you could do was go to see the Arkansas Razorbacks play at War Memorial Stadium. To be in that stadium, hearing 60,000 people calling the Hogs, "Woo! Peg! Suey!" Believe it or not, that was a thrill. The problem was, the games were always sold out in Little Rock. There weren't any tickets available. My mother said, "You can't go, it's sold out." Can't is a word that my dad didn't like. So my dad and I went. He put together a little small sign that said, "Need to." And he and I stood in front of the stadium as people passed by. We did this in front of every game, and we got into every game. One night, we were standing at the stadium with our "Need to" sign, and it was cold. And I'd been standing there for a half an hour. And I looked up to my dad and I said, "Daddy, how long are we going to have to stand out here? I'm getting cold." And I'll never forget, he looked down at me and he said, "Son, have faith." In less than 2 minutes, a gentleman came up and he sold us 2 tickets. And we got in just in time for kickoff. And it was a great game. And after the game, my dad said, "Did you enjoy the game?" I said, "Yeah, Daddy, it was great." "Thanks, Dad." Like I said, my dad didn't like the word can't. He did a lot of things in his life that a lot of people said he couldn't do. Our engine and our family station wagon disintegrated back in the 60s, coming from Florida back to Little Rock. And my dad and I, in the field, in the middle of nowhere, borrowed some tools and put that engine together completely in 3 days and drove it on to Little Rock. He did things like he bought a wooden boat and took it 1,000 miles down the Intercoastal Waterway. And he had no experience doing that. But they said he couldn't, and he did. My dad wanted to be a minister. They said he couldn't get into a church. So what did he do? He set up a campground ministry at the world's largest campground in Virginia Beach. And he preached at that campground every Sunday for 38 years. They said he couldn't do it. He and my mom traveled around the world with an internationally known choir. He did a lot of things. He had no regrets. And for what it's worth, my father passed away 3 weeks ago on a Tuesday night at 7:30.
Wow.
And you know, when your father passes, you're not sure what your reaction is going to be. He had a stroke and he'd been in declining health for almost a year, so it wasn't a great surprise. But the thing that surprised me in the last few weeks is how the things that he taught me have come back. I'll never forget when we were a kid one night, he gathered the whole family around the dining room table. And he took out the dictionary. And he opened the dictionary to the word can't. And he took a pair of scissors and cut the word can't out of the dictionary in front of all of us. That's the kind of dad that I grew up with. So he passed away 3 weeks ago. He was 87 years old. He had a very full life. Had a stroke that he didn't recover from. Family all came in and we were there when he passed. We had called in hospice. I didn't even know what hospice did. It was amazing. So that happened 3 weeks ago. Let me fast forward to last Friday, this past Friday. We got back from the burial, the funeral and everything, and we were at home. And there was a concert that was taking place at Ruth Eckerd Hall that we wanted to go to. Karen and I wanted to go to. Everywhere we looked, it said it was sold out. We went on Craigslist. So we couldn't find any tickets on Craigslist. So Karen said, "I hate to miss it." And I said, "I do too, and we're not going to." So we got in the van, we drove over there, and I had a little sign. And guess what that sign said?
Me too.
Need to. Karen said she'd stay in the van. She gets embarrassed when I do stupid things. I took my sign and I walked up to the front of Ruth Eckerd Hall where people were coming in, and I held my sign up. Need to. I was the only guy there with a sign. And I found out why in a minute. Security came up, and this big lady with a badge says, "You can't buy tickets here. You can't solicit for tickets here." I said, "Lady, the sign doesn't say a thing about tickets, does it?" She said, "I know what you're doing." And she was loud enough to draw the attention of another male security guard who walked up and said, "It's against the law to solicit tickets on this, which is private property. You have a choice. You can go off the property or we can arrest you." He was very clear. I didn't want to be arrested. I didn't have my cell phone. I couldn't have called Karen anyway. And don't you know, that would have been embarrassing. So I took my sign and I walked a long way. And when you come in Ruth Eckerd Hall, there's a long driveway you pull into the parking. That was my exit. As I walked past that long line of cars, I had my sign up, hoping someone would say, "Need some tickets?" Not one. I walked all the way up to McMullen Booth Boulevard, where the red light is. And there I knew I was safe. So I stood there, and as people pulled in, I was hoping one of them would see my sign and stop and offer me some tickets, but it wasn't happening. And it was cold. And this is all I had on. And I seemed to wait what seemed like an eternity. When all of a sudden, this thought came to me. Have faith. And in less than 2 minutes, I swear you can ask Karen, a car pulled up, not coming into Ruth Eckerd Hall, but leaving Ruth Eckerd Hall. Had a man and a woman in it. The woman was driving. She said, "Are you looking for tickets?" And I said, "Yeah, you got two?" She said, "Yes." I said, "Are they together?" She said, "Yes." So I went over to her car, and she told me what the face value was. And I was giving her money, and I don't know, being a little suspicious or something, I asked her. I said, "How come you guys are not going to the concert? It looks like you're leaving." She said, "We are." She said, "My husband's father is in the hospital. He's dying of cancer. And hospice is with him. And we thought it was more important to be with him than to go to this concert." I said, "God bless you." And I turned around and walked away. And on the way back to the van to show Karen that I got the tickets, I paused for just a moment. And I looked up into the heavens. And I said, "Thank you, Dad." Let's go.